Let's stay with this main story this lunchtime and talk about what's going to happen when members of parliament converge at 2 o'clock to vote on whether to adopt that Phala Phala panel report. We can speak to former Scopa chairperson Themba Godi. Mr. Godi, a very good afternoon to you. As you would have been hearing there, two opposing groups. Carl Niehaus, of course, a now expelled member of the ANC in the last 24 hours or so, but flanked by people who say they're supporters of the party. Others who are also from the Women's League say today that they in fact want Ramaphosa to stay. Is today really, in earnest, a test for the ANC?
Not really, to the extent that the scenes that you've just described merely confirm the divisions within that party. But the critical job is going to be done in the House by members of Parliament. And in that regard, I think today, like any other day, reinforces the fact that oversight by Parliament is basically a political process and not an administrative one. And so we see Parliament sitting with all political parties having taken positions, and all of them are expecting their members to abide by the political decisions taken by their leaders. So, yes, it will be a test to the extent that will there be dissent or not, the extent of that dissent, and what it will mean for the ANC, especially as they are approaching their conference this weekend.
Right. And you mentioned a crucial issue there, that all parties would have given their MPs their line of march for today, yet there's been outrage from opposition benches about the ANC's instruction on its MPs on how to vote. That does have an element of hypocrisy, does it not?
Well, very true. That's why I say oversight is always a very political thing. However, from where I'm seated, you listened to the spokesperson of Parliament talking about transparency, about possible bribery, and all the like. And yet, you recall that in the last motion against the former president, it was done by secret ballot because the judgment from the Constitutional Court, although it was not explicit, was used as a weight to say, well, people might feel threatened, they need to be protected. And in this instance, we know the national chairperson of the ANC has said that ANC members who don't vote in line with what the party has dictated must leave the ANC. So clearly, it should be a foolhardy or a very brave individual who will have decided that I want to leave the ANC by not going in line with what the party dictates.
So the ANC, in fact, I'm on Parliament's page now, has about 57.50% of representation in the House, 230 seats. The closest to that is the DA with 84, the EFF 44, IFP 14. They would need, the opposition, a significant chunk of ANC members to basically defy the directive from the NEC in order to push this report through. Do you think that's possible?
Well, up to so far, that has not happened. And I don't expect that to happen. Because the party line and organizational discipline dictates that that is what they need to do. However, it has always been my view that when the president is voted in, interestingly, it's by secret ballot, and it's defined in the Constitution. It's by secret ballot. However, when he needs to be taken out, if that is the case, whether it's a motion of no confidence or it's a motion on impeachment, we seem to have no clarity in terms of how this should be done. And yet the simplest of the two processes is voting in. Voting out can be a bit problematic, and yet it is the one that is allowed to be in the open, which places, especially from the majority party, MPs who may want to dissent, have little room to do so without fear of repercussions.
But why not own it and go out on the right side of history if indeed this would be a moral decision and an ANC MP wants action against the president who, as this panel has said, there is sufficient grounds for him to possibly be put before an impeachment process. If someone who's in the ANC feels that is the right position ethically, morally, and perhaps even legally, why wouldn't they want for that to be known publicly? That then would speak, would it not, to self-interest before what is right, if that indeed is their position?
Well, I think that would unfortunately be placing a heavy burden on those who would want to dissent. It is career limiting. Look, I'm not saying it was deliberate, nor do I approve, but I'm sure you note that all members of the ANC who served with me in Scopa, none of them came back. Well, some would say it's a coincidence, but I would imagine we stepped on so many toes. So there are prices to pay, and all people will do will be to praise you. And people consider a lot of factors. They have lives to live, they have things to consider. It's rare to find a large number of people who would want to be heroes, depending on a whole range of other considerations. Mm-hmm. So I think as things stand, it is stacked against those who may want to dissent, not knowing what the outcome of their national conference is going to be this weekend.
The National Assembly Speaker has granted the request for the panel to then be established. It was established and conducted the investigation, put together a report. She last week then acceded to the demand of opposition parties for today's vote to happen in person, people physically in the chamber. She's turned down twice the request for a secret vote on the matter by MPs. Overall, can I get your assessment of how well Parliament has handled Phala Phala as an issue for Parliament?
Well, in the first instance, I think the Speaker appears to have really been dragged into accepting the panel to be set up. You'll recall that it took a lot of time and a lot of budging for her to accept it. And now that the panel has reported, I think it is only procedurally correct that it is brought before Parliament. You'll recall that it is the same process that happened with the panel report on Advocate Mkhwebane, which was brought before Parliament. And interestingly, at that time, when there were divisions within the ANC, the call from the ANC was that, no, we're not saying she's guilty. We're merely allowing the process to continue. It's only at the level of the Parliamentary Committee who are going to decide whether she's guilty or not. But in this instance, I think they seem to take a completely different approach.
Themba Godi, former Scopa chairperson, thank you for your time, sir, today.